Denise, who's our supervisor here. There's Denise, and
my first comments deal with the authenticity of this morning's event and your being here. When Glenn Seaborg came back west from his activities in Washington, D.C. as the past chairman of the board of the Atomic Energy Commission, he and I would meet here with a couple of his young kids, and we would hike on a Saturday or Sunday, because he was back in the university, and we would hike all the way across Briones, and we'd end up down there in Glen Avenue with Helen making a sandwich or two for us, and then somehow we got her back here to pick up our cars. And those were just marvelous. Man has to be great in this world, I guess you have to also be simple. And he was a delight to hike with. And then the second occasion that I want to describe to you is, there would be times when I would have a board item before the board of directors on land acquisition, and it would be kind of the turning point where they had to vote it in and vote the money behind it. Now, we would have an executive session on that subject, and there may be one or two board members who had some questions. Now, if they had really valid questions, I could generally respond. Now, if there was some kind of we had once in a while, and so then what I would do is, I would immediately call up Glenn down in university, because he was only about 12, 15 minutes away. And I'd say, now the item's going to come up on the agenda about so-and-so time, and it's number 5 or whatever. And so, he would come over. He would every single time come over, and this is more than a few times. And he would come down before that board, and he would say, I've been out there, I know that land, and what you've got before you is a tremendous opportunity. And he didn't get any questions. So there you go. They almost got voted in, and we're here today.
Thank you, and thank all of you for coming on this lovely day out here. Few people I should just mention quickly is Jeannie Harmon, who's done so much to help my mother take her from place to place, and she drove my mom here today. It's good to see some old neighbors that I grew up with and whose children were in my class as an elementary student. The Peters are here, and Sheila Peterson. Also, Sam Markowitz, who is a chemist and colleague of my dad's, who ran the softball league for Berkeley that I played in. And Marinda Wu, who helps organize the annual National Chemistry Week, where we carry out during the Cal game the banner of the National Chemistry Week, as well as the banner of Seaborgian, in honor of the element named after my dad. Well, it's a pleasure to be able to speak at an event that honors my dad, where I don't have to tell the same 2 jokes, because for the last 7 years or so I've been speaking at 2 events that honor my dad that have to do with Cal football, and they always ask for the same 2 jokes, and I'm glad to not have to keep the reputation up of Dave Same Joke Seaborg. So it's really an honor to have this trail named after my dad, and some of the history of this is actually after my dad's death. The Lafayette City Government, City Council, and City Manager asked for a meeting with me to find a way to honor my father as a long-time resident of Lafayette. And as such, we went over this meeting what to do, and at that time a number of ideas were thrown around, and one of them was the Seaborg Open Space Fund, which I came up with to raise money to give to the Park District to name the foundation after my dad, and to raise money for the Park District because of his interest in open space, which I followed through and did set up that fund, and another was finally to name the consortium of the Lafayette Library after him. But one idea that came up was to name a trail after my dad, and I eventually followed through with this with the Park District because it wasn't really a city government issue, and the East Bay Regional Park District was very supportive of this, and they sent out Steve Fiala with maps to come and meet me and hike around and choose the appropriate trail to name after my father. And so we hiked around and looked at a number of trails that were suggested and went over what would be the best one. And this Homestead Trail right here is the one that I chose, and I wrote up my reasons why and emailed it to the Park District, and they chose the trail, this trail. And I think this trail is a very appropriate trail for several reasons. One was that my dad, of course, lived on Glen Road in the Glen near Briones Park, and he was an avid hiker, of course, as you all know, and he hiked Briones a lot. And one of the areas that he did hike the most was Briones Regional Park, and one of the trails that he hiked the most was this Homestead Trail. Also, I hiked a lot with him, and I hiked this trail with him. And it's a particularly significant trail because my father led the Hike a Nation hike, which was a hike across the country from east to west, which my father planned and led the California section of, with help from my mother. And the first portion of this hike was actually the hike across the Bay Bridge, which was a lot of fun. But my point is that this trail, Homestead Trail, was on the Hike a Nation route. Furthermore, my brother Eric, my younger brother Eric, and his wife Ellen Dudley later planned a permanent trail east to west across the United States, which is the first in the history of this country. Even though we have three running north to south, this was the first going east to west. And they wrote a book about it, and the name of that trail is the American Discovery Trail. This trail, the Homestead Trail, is also on the American Discovery Trail. Furthermore, the name Homestead Trail not being a particularly prominent historic or place name, it's a trail that a name that we can easily change. So I think this is a very, very appropriate trail to change the name and to honor my father with naming it after him. And finally, I wanted a trail that wasn't some obscure trail way off that very few people would hike. And this is a very prominent trail, a well-used trail right here at the beginning of the Bear Creek staging area. So, and it's a very accessible trail. So I want to thank the Park District for providing the maps, providing the support, being supportive every step of the way, and providing the staff member to hike with me and show me around, and for accepting my suggestion, and for inviting me to give a little talk when they voted in favor of renaming the trail at their meeting when they officially did this. So they've been very supportive all the way, and I really appreciate this. And I think that my father would be very honored and very happy and very pleased about this. And I look forward to hiking with all of you after this ceremony. I know that when I dressed, I was thinking of my talk, not thinking of the hike, but I think I can make it in these clothes. And I want to thank all of you for coming again, and thank the Park District once again. Thank you.
Might be.
Are you ready? Here we go. The Dr. Glenn Seaborg Trail.
Hey John, how you doing?
It's the Kuchatobium.
Yeah.
What's BH? Because it was invented
Borium.
by
See, I figure if your goal is not to get any fatter, if you just try not to be happy with yourself. Yeah. Instead of saying I'm going to lose weight and then maybe.
Ernest's secretary. That's how she met Glenn Seaborg.
Oh wow.
Seaborg and Gobert is where we're at.
I just heard David say that. All right, so now you'll get right up here in front because there's a little more room in there.